Hi, Tim. We should be live now. Welcome to the 2021 Leaders in Trade Compliance series. First of all, again, before we begin, I always like to thank you. Thanks my guest for coming on onto the show. So thank you so much for joining me here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome, and thanks for having me on. It should be a nice little fun conversation.
Yeah, just like we were talking. So you said even though people do podcasts and stuff, you've never actually been on one. So tell me and tell everyone who's watching, how do you actually feel to be on one yourself?
It's kind of neat. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of always played around with the idea of doing one myself, but just never had the time, the energy, the ability really to do one. Never really had a topic in mind to do one either. So
hmm Yeah, honestly, if you want to start one, go ahead. You don't really need a topic. I would say just, start on LinkedIn or YouTube and just start it. In the beginning, it's going to be slow. For example, when I started my YouTube channel, I didn't know how it was going to go, right? But now I have almost 500 followers on YouTube, so that's something. And unless you start, initially it's going to take time, but if you want to start, I'd say go for it. It's great, honestly, and it helps out a lot of people. So even
yeah,
if it's not just one topic, you should definitely start something in trade compliance because there's nothing, at least in trade compliance. I mean, you see stuff like detailed webinars and sometimes very detailed topic, but there's nothing out there right now which is mostly free and which is helping out people in trade compliance. So stuff like this, it's always going to be beneficial to the people watching.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, you go into those detailed ones, and they're great for if you're looking for that specific detail. But
hmm
like you said, there's nothing really out there for the person who just wants to kind of have maybe a general stream going on to kind of get them thinking about some other stuff and maybe pull in some connections about some things that they never had before. So
Yeah, and most of the detailed ones, even they're paid.
yeah,
So you have to pay quite a bit of money to actually go into them anyway. So unless you really want to learn about that specific topic, it's not going to be that uh, beneficial to you anyway.
yeah, exactly.
hmm Yeah. So Tim, I know just from what I know about you online, I know you've kind of been in this trade compliance industry for over 10 years, and it seems like you've mostly been on the export side of things. So as we talk through this, I was wondering if you could during some time, you can also talk how that's different than the import side of things. It's kind of like importation, exportation, they're the two sides of the same coin,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
unless you're dealing with the export portion every single day, not a lot of people actually know too much about it. So just the general stuff. Even me, I was wondering how does it feel? How does that compare to the importation side of things? So while we were talking about this, it would be great if you could kind of touch on that as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So first off, let's talk about you where you are right now and what do you do every single day?
Well, I'm currently with Leonardo Helicopters, part of the Leonardo Aerospace and Defense Group out of Italy. Specifically, I'm with Augusta Westland, and I am the import-export manager with them. Really, day to day, there's a lot of, hey, can you classify this for me? Hey, we need to ship some of this stuff out. Can you let it go? Can you
hmm
release the hold on it? We need to ship something, this specific thing to this specific location. Do we need a license for it?
hmm
A lot of stuff like that. But then on top of that too, there's also reviewing and updating policies and procedures and trainings. I just finished up writing a quick reference guide for classifying technical data.
hmm
So you go everything from day to day down in the weeds to the kind of stuff that is, up in the cloud a little bit somewhere that you got to kind of try to pull from and put together something that people can read and understand and relate to with how it works for their function. And, so there's always something to do. It's a 26-hour day, really.
Yeah, I know how that feels. I feel like with trade compliance, everything plus nowadays, everything is changing so rapidly, especially on the export side of things. I mean, it seems like there's always something new every single day, so I'm sure you probably have to keep up with everything and make sure everything is up to date on your side as well.
Oh
So
yeah.
it can take a toll. I mean, I'm sure you work after hours and stuff too, because that's the norm in this industry.
Yeah, especially for a multinational corporation, there are people that are 7, 8 hours ahead of us.
Hmm.
I'm on the East Coast in the Eastern time zone, so it's midnight over in Europe in some areas, and
Hmm.
I'll still get emails coming in at this time of night sometimes.
Do
So
you get nightmares?
no, I don't get nightmares about trade compliance.
Okay, good. That's good to know. I know some people who work they work so much in trade compliance. They tell me that they start having nightmares about trade compliance, which is pretty funny to me. But
Yeah, I can see it happening, but no, I don't remember ever having a nightmare about trade compliance. I prefer to
that's
dream about,
good.
yeah, I prefer to dream about some of the other stuff I read. That's more fun.
That's good.
So,
So Tim, um, I want to talk a bit about your journey,
mhm.
and how you began in this industry. How did you begin? Like, where were you when you started coming into this industry? Or what made you step into it?
Well, it was, as I'm sure you've probably heard from other people, it was completely by accident.
Hmm.
That seems to kind
That's
of be
all.
the,
Isn't that always the answer?
yeah, it's always the answer. It's completely by accident. So, um, initially, when I went into college and had a goal in mind for what I wanted to do for a career, I wanted to go into patent law. So I originally went for an engineering degree, and then I was going to go to law school, go into patent law.
Hmm.
Um, Things as they were, that didn't quite work out the way I had planned. So I switched, got a pre-law degree, and then went into contracts for a defense contractor back up in New York.
Hmm.
Um, that was first position out of college. A lot of learning there, and kind of learning how to be successful and what it takes to be in an actual career field. Spent a couple of years there, and then went over to another small aerospace components and systems manufacturer. But while I was unemployed at the time, I was looking for, obviously, looking for new positions, and a lot of them I saw in the contracts field wanted people that had a ITAR, EAR, at least a working knowledge of them. I didn't know what they were. I'd never heard of them before, so I started looking them up, and for better or worse, I told the people I was interviewing with at my next company that I had some knowledge of them and done some independent research. And they hired me in June. And in August, they asked me to take on the role of export compliance. So, I said, sure. Didn't think it was going to be, much more than that, but it wound up morphing into my primary career focus, because in a lot of ways it's very tangential to patent law. It's very technical, very mechanical. You have to have a lot of that sort of aptitude in knowing what products are and how specifications work, and the engineering and the math and that side of things. But you also have to have a lot of ability with the legal side. And it really just kind of clicked with me for a while, and here I am.
Awesome. It seems like at least you were kind of around trade compliance, at least the similar laws and stuff, before you stepped into it. So with a lot of people, I've noticed their field is completely different, whether they're in undergrad or whether they're doing something else afterwards. Usually they're very, very different and doing something that's completely separate than trade compliance, and then they just randomly step into it, and that's where they discover and decide they just end up staying over there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard from most people too, is that they start off when, doing contracts or doing, maybe some shipping and logistics, which, that's kind of the back end of the trade compliance world. But then they just kind of get thrown into it. It's usually somebody at their company will say, "Hey, we need somebody that can do this. Nobody else has any idea what it is, so we're going to pick you. Now you're the trade compliance guy."
Yeah, that seems to be the trend. But nowadays, I feel like, especially with the all the changes both on the importation and exportation side of things, people actually know what trade compliance is. At least they've heard of it, and because of that, people are starting to actually get interested into this field. People are looking
Mhm.
this up. I even have people who reached out to me because they took the brokers exam and passed the exam without even being in the field because they want to enter into the field.
Yeah, it's one of those feels like it's kind of like the worst kept secret, or maybe the best kept secret, depending on how you look at it, in industry, because everybody has to ship, whether
Hmm.
you're a clothing manufacturer, an aerospace manufacturer, or anything in between. You've got to ship.
Yeah.
And how do you ship? And it used to be, this was kind of what I picked up when I first started training for it 10 years ago, was before the export control reform, it kind of was just maybe second or third on the list of the most important things to do.
Hmm.
But then the control reform happened and the fines started getting bigger. And then you've got, the guy down in Florida that got hit with it was like a $28 million personal fine.
Huh.
Um, and people are starting to really pay attention to it. And there's a ton of jobs out there for it,
Yeah.
but there's not a lot of people that do it.
Hmm.
So if you're interested in the field, if you have, that sort of technical, mechanical type of aptitude, and you're okay with digging down into the details in the minutia of legalese, especially government legalese, um, and you can do it well, you're always going to find a job.
Hmm. And especially in the export control side of things, I feel like it's a high risk, high reward kind of situation. There are not a lot of people do it. That's why if you come into this field, I think it's a good chance that you're going to progress a lot in this field because not a lot of people know it, but it's something that every single company pretty much does. At least if that company wants to grow or if they're already growing, they're going to ship outside the country, they're going to import stuff, and because of that, they're going to need trade compliance people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been getting requests from some of our suppliers who have been requested to drop ship to an international location, and they've never exported before.
Mhm.
And they're coming to me to have them help, or to help them figure out how to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
and
it may not be something that they ever pick up any more than that. Maybe it's only a few times or maybe a few products, and they never do anything more. But when when they start coming to their customers, trade compliance people, and
mhm,
asking about it, then that there's a severe shortage of trade compliance people out there,
mhm.
for how many jobs there are for it.
Yeah, definitely, that's true. And I feel like when if if companies are now aware of trade compliance, a lot of times people who are shipping, they just feel like at least within North America, if they're going to ship within North America, they feel like they it just kind of magically happens. They don't realize the back end story of what's really going on. They feel like they ship and then everything just kind of goes through. And then
Mm.
until they hit that block, which is blocking them from shipping, they don't even realize there's this thing called trade compliance on the side, which they have to meet, whether exportation or whether it's importation, which is crazy, right? I mean, you would think the companies, especially some of these big companies, they know, or they at least have someone who just takes care of trade compliance, but even nowadays there's so many companies out there who just kind of has have such a decentralized trade compliance portion uh, of the company that it doesn't really exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the real big ones that do international shipping all the time, they're going to have trade compliance, at least one person in there.
Hmm.
Um, through experience, sometimes it's sort of like, hey, we know we need this, so we've got a guy that can do it, but it doesn't really get much attention other than that until
Hmm.
all of a sudden things are blocked and they can't figure out what to do. And um, now the trade compliance guy gets loaded with requests for, hey, can you unblock this shipment, or can you clear this through customs? And and the trade compliance person is just like, well, I don't know anything about this. You guys got to give me more information. And a lot of times it's a back and forth, and sometimes it can take days or weeks to get the information you need. And by then you're getting charged out the wazoo from customs for having your product held at the border, or you're late on meeting deliveries because you can't get an export license. And
yeah, I was gonna say, and if you need an export license, then I mean you're stuck for pretty much 6 months, because it takes a while for you to apply to actually get the license if you need one. At least a lot of times.
It can, depending on the complexity of it. I've seen anything from 3 business days for a really quick, easy export license to 6, 7, 8 months. Sometimes maybe even a little bit longer. It just depends on how big the license is. How many products are on it, where it's going. Is it a high risk location? Who's the end user? That sort of thing. So it's
Yeah, it can get quite complicated. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult. So yeah, like you said, it can take a couple of minutes to classify the stuff, and then it can take a couple of days or even a couple of months if you need a license to export the stuff if you need to. So it really depends on what the product is.
Yeah, absolutely. And and then it's you kind of go at the speed of the government at that point.
It always comes down to that at the end, right? And there's only so much you can do. And if someone's pushing, like if you're the trade compliance person and someone's pushing at you for something that you have no control over, there's really nothing much you can do. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So Tim, you when you began your career, you kind of started at the career randomly, and then now you're trade compliance manager. So I was wondering, could you talk a little bit about what type of things that you were doing, or what type of traits you have, which actually made you successful and be where you are right now?
Yeah, so that's that's kind of a question that everybody's gonna have a different answer to, because everybody's got their own strengths. For me personally, I've always had kind of a technical, mechanical type of aptitude. I always enjoyed taking things apart and putting them back together as a kid to see if I can make them work again. Built my own computer several times. Do most of the work on my car myself, as long as I don't need some sort of crazy special tool for it. So I've always kind of had that, and I parlayed that into some classes for programming and coding in high school, then a little bit in college, because I started in computer engineering, so there was some programming in there. And then the sciences, all the STEM stuff, I understand all the theories and that sort of stuff. I just struggled with the math. That was kind of why I switched out of engineering. But when I picked up trade compliance, at first when you start reading it and you just get loaded with all these specifications on the CCL and the Commerce Control List and the U.S. military list, you just overload it because there's so much stuff on there. And you can drive yourself crazy trying to figure it all out. But once you get into the actual field and you have a focus for what your specific company is doing, then you can get rid of a whole bunch of the other parts of the regulations. If you build cars, you don't have to worry necessarily about firearms. You can just kind of skip over that part of it. So the technical aptitude plus the law degree, I've always loved reading and history and law and those types of things. So I also have a pretty good retention on what I read, and the being able to recall that at pretty quick notice and tie it into the mechanical and technical side of things. That really helped. I can understand the technical side of it, so I can talk to the engineers and the product people a little bit, and I understand the legal side of it, so I can talk to the contracts and customer service and some of the lawyers and things like that go on with it. Plus my experience with contracts. I was contracts and customer service for a while as well. So, you get kind of a good mix in there, and it really helps to, one, understand everything, but two, be able to convey it in a way that the different functions can understand.
Yeah, I agree with you. It feels like, so at least in your case, it seems like the fact that you were able to gather different kinds of knowledge and kind of put it forward in a way which is understandable, that kind of helped push you and your career forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's good to be able to understand different kinds of things. And I see your son. Is that your son?
Yeah, that's my son.
That's nice. Work from home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So that it's good. It's always good to have different type of knowledge, and if you don't, then it's always good if you're in this industry, or if you want to enter into this industry. It's always good to kind of have different type of knowledge around you. At least to be able to say that you've seen the stuff, and if you need to make more progress on it, you can, because that really helps other people understand that you. He's having fun, right?
Yeah, he wants my phone.
Kids, it's all good. Yeah, it's okay. We can finish up early. He can get his phone then.
No, he's got it. He's gone now. So.
Yeah. So as I was saying, so if you're within this industry, it's always good to kind of keep track of everything that's going on, because even if you're not using the stuff, if you know how to use it, or if you know where to find it, it kind of really helps push that image forward that you want to learn and you want to stay active in this industry, because it's an ever-changing industry, right? It's always constantly changing. So you need to be the kind of person who's always willing to do the work to learn new stuff. And that's what's going to differentiate you from the people around you, because if you like the constant same kind of stuff, then you might not move forward as fast as you want to. But if you're the kind of person who likes things kind of chaotic, I guess, then this is for you, and that's what's going to push you forward.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's also good as you're going up through from your first training all the way up through your career to whatever level you're able to get to. Kind of talk with people in other departments and other job functions. I spent a lot of time talking with repair techs and engineers about the products and how they work, and talking with the program managers and the program people and the purchasers and the shipping and logistics people. And as you go up higher with your trade compliance career, especially if you're on the export side, I'm not quite so in tune with the import side in that part of things, but I know that they do get there's a lot of visibility for it, and you kind of get your fingers plugged into all different types of functions, and you're talking with all different types of people. So if you learn what they kind of need from your standpoint as the trade compliance professional, you can parlay to them what you need from them, and you can do it in a way where you can communicate and understand each other, and it'll make things just a lot easier for you to help them and for them to help you.
Yeah, I've actually seen that happen. When you don't understand what you, for example, if you don't understand what you're trying to classify, then you won't be able to. And if you can't really tell, for example, the engineers what you're looking for, then it's going to be really hard for them to give you the information that you need to do your work on your side. Because trade compliance is like it's like a new language. It's not like standard English. It's a completely different language, and you have to be able to kind of translate that into other languages, just to make sure everything is moving on faster and quicker and more efficiently.
Yeah, and then it's also making sure that the people you're talking to understand that there are things that they need to know, the working knowledge of the regulations and what goes into trade compliance. But they don't need to know everything. The people who talk with customers on a day-to-day basis and the people who deal with the products, they should know at least a little bit of what the classifications mean. And some of them should actually know kind of more what the classifications are. Whereas someone like HR they have no need to know what classifications are. Right. They have to know and understand what the difference is between a U.S. person and a foreign person and how that applies to hiring. So, there's a lot of nuance there in a lot of ways. And, I've picked up on that, and I've started developing targeted training programs for different functions to tell them that, hey, you guys don't need to worry about this over here, but you do need to worry about this. And depending on how close you are to the products and the shipping side of things and the program side of things, you're going to need to know more about it.
So, you pretty much act like a central hub, and everyone kind of connects with you, whether it's HR, whether it's legal, whether it's finance, anyone. You work with everyone, and you act as the central hub, which pretty much ensures that all the trade compliance portion of the regulations are being met, and no one's violating those regulations, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially on the export side.
Yeah. With everything going on, I feel like the export side of things, you really need to be proactive and make sure they're involving the right type of people from all of these different types of departments or different type of functions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Tim, I was wondering, are you a customs a licensed customs broker as well?
I am not. I've thought about going to get it, but my previous companies, it wasn't something that was high on the priority list. They had brokers that they dealt with, and that would handle their imports. So it was not something that I was ever really high on the list for them to do, and I never really pursued it on my own either.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. And I want to point that out to everyone who's watching now, who's going to watch later. You don't need to be a licensed custom broker to do good in this field. I mean, it's a good thing to have, and it kind of shows that you want to make the effort, and you've done some of the work, and you know where to find the stuff. But it's not like a requirement. Even if you don't have a license, it's okay. Even if you just try for the license and you don't get it, it's good. The fact that you tried, sometimes even that's sufficient to kind of tell the people who you're going to work with that you know where to find the stuff. So even though it's something that's nice to have, either this or even any other type of certification, it's good to have them, but it's not a requirement for you to succeed in this field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there are some job postings out there that are open that I've seen in the past when I've been looking that do have requirements for licensed customs broker and a couple of other ones. But for the most part, you can almost go anywhere as long as you have the knowledge, the understanding, and the ability. And, obviously you make a good impression on the interviewers and the hiring people, and you can be very successful and have a very great and potentially lucrative career out of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like you said, not everyone is looking for a customs broker license. And even if they have that as a requirement in the job posting, a lot of times it's something that's nice to have, and they state that you're required to have it, but it's not something that's really, really required, because if the importer is not doing self-filing for their own entries, they don't really need a person who has a license. Technically, someone who has a license and someone who doesn't, both of them can do the same job as long as they're using another broker to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I do all of the import investigations right now, and even for some past companies. I would do the investigations, find out the information to pass on to the broker who was actually doing it, or who would go through and be the direct point of contact with CBP and fix any issues that popped up.
Yeah, exactly. You can either go to the brokers or you can even go to the customs themselves too if you have any questions or concerns, or if you're not sure about something, you can always go to either sources. And I mean that's why they exist, right? I mean their main purpose is to help you out. They're not both parties do not exist just to get get at you, you know. I mean they're there so you can reach out to them and they can benefit you whenever you need them. So you have to remember that as someone who's working in this profession, that they're over there and you can reach out to them at any time.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. So Tim, also, how do you keep up with all the changing regulations that we have nowadays? What do you do on your side? I know a lot of people do seminars and webinars, but some don't. So I was just curious to find out what you do on your side, especially because you're more focused on the export side of things rather than import. So what do you do on your side to keep up with everything that's going on?
It's really kind of a combination of newsletters, Federal Register notices, just reading through the regulations. I'm in the regulations every day, reading through them, and some, they're they're updated live on the government websites. So, if you're looking at the latest one, so if something changed from before that you never saw before, then you don't even know that it changed. But and then obviously mailing lists and things like that, webinars, seminars, those kinds of things. So you just kind of get as much information as you can from as many places as you can, and you kind of sift through some of the stuff that you don't need. You can, again, if you're building helicopters, you don't really need to know about fire. Well, you kind of need to know a little bit about firearms, but there's parts of the regulations you don't really need to worry about too much, and you can push those aside as you're reading through, and until you find something that you need. Yeah.
Have you ever had a day when you didn't read the regulations?
No.
so
even when I was unemployed and looking for a position, I was still reading regulations. So,
what about the weekend?
I don't read on the weekends unless I have to.
Okay.
The weekends are for my family and taking care of stuff around the house and maybe going somewhere and having some fun. No regulations if I can avoid it on the weekends.
Yeah, you need that time, right? If you don't recharge, then the next week's going to be pretty bad for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So one more question that I want to ask you is, so if someone wants to enter on the export side of things, but they don't have that much experience in it, or even if they don't have any experience in it, what can they do to kind of, I guess, up their game and get a fighting chance of entering into this industry on the export side of things?
Well, when I started, I went through it was a 4-day training seminar through a company called the Export Control Training Institute. That was in person, but they have a ton of webinars. You can get the seminar actually even sent to you on a USB stick, and you can review it that way. They have a lot of free information on their website, so you can do that. There's the Society for International Affairs, which I am a member of. You can jump on there. They've got a lot of great resources, and they do several conferences every year.
Is that something? Is the membership free, or does someone have to pay to join it?
No, it's like $100 or something like that. It's a fairly nominal membership fee. So
just curious, because people do ask me about these type of things, so I wanted them to know if there's a fee or not.
Yeah. So and there's some other things out there as well. There's I think Thomson Reuters puts some stuff out. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff out there. The BIS and State Department websites BIS is the Bureau of Industry and Security under the Department of Commerce. Their websites have a lot of great information. CBP has some good information. Census Bureau has some good information. Office of Foreign Asset Control under the Treasury has some great information. That's where all your sanctions are.
Right.
So, you know, on the export side, it's in a lot of ways. On the import side, it's very technical. You have to kind of be able to read through the export classifications the same way you'd have to read through the HTS or Schedule B codes. And they actually read very similarly as well. So if you understand one, you can kind of pick up the other one pretty quickly.
Right.
But those are all great resources, and as you're going through them, you'll find more. But you know, you pick your favorite ones and go from there, and then you know, always pay attention to the Federal Register and see what's coming down the pipeline.
Sure. And if someone is, let's say, two people apply to a job under you, and both of them don't have an experience, but one of them has gone to seminars or webinars or taken these type of classes, to you, would that make a difference? Like, I'm assuming you would, and you would probably favor the person who's at least trying to learn more about the importation or exportation side of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It would certainly give them a leg up. There's a lot more to it than just having the knowledge. You also have to be able to apply the knowledge as with anything. And sometimes it's attitude and things like that as well. But certainly if somebody is attending webinars, seminars, things like that, whether they've done it company sponsored or on their own, you know, that certainly will give them a bit of a leg up in terms of not requiring so much training. But also because it shows that they've gone through the what's the word I'm looking for?
Effort.
They've gone through the effort to try to learn how the regulations read, and that's a very important thing, because you can get really lost really easy if you don't really understand what you're looking for. And those webinars and seminars do a great job of pointing you in the direction and the spots where the information that you're looking for actually is.
Yeah. And like I said before, if you want to be in this industry, it's good to be the type of person who wants to always learn more. And whether you have experience or not, and you want to get into this industry, or if you want to change jobs, it's good to attend these type of webinars or seminars, because it'll teach you the stuff that you don't really use every single day a lot of times. So it's good to have knowledge of these in case you need to use them for the company you're working for, or second, if it's something that comes up during an interview, you can actually at least say that you've seen that material and you know where to look. And that matters, you know, even the fact that you've heard the stuff before and you can say that you've seen the stuff or you've attended webinars about it, that's going to matter to the person who's interviewing you.
Yeah, especially because then you're not completely starting from scratch and saying, this is what the ITAR is, this is what the EAR is. That person already kind of at least has an idea of what it is. Maybe they've looked at it a little bit, and if they're like me, their eyes glassed over and they got lost really quickly. But you know, as with anything, the more you do it, the easier it gets, the better you get at it. And you find that maybe a lot of times the information you're looking for doesn't change that much. You know, I know the classifications and the tariffs and all that are always changing, but you know, if you do it long enough, you do it well enough, those changes won't really matter to you. Just say, okay, move on.
Yeah. It's just a matter of having that experience. You know, the more years you work in this industry, the easier it's kind of going to get, because you realize even the changes that are happening, they're very minor compared to everything that exists out there. And if you're working within an industry where the changes are happening, you'll kind of have some kind of update from the things around you. Webinars, webinars or seminars which happen, and they'll point out those changes for you. So it's not like you have to be too worried about it. They'll kind of come in front of you and you'll pick up on them over time.
Yeah, and if you're confused about a change or whatever, there's tons of webinars out there you can do. Some of them are might be free if you can find one, but typically they're fairly nominal price, 100, $200, something like that. So, if you can go for it, then go for it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. So Tim, the last thing, I guess, what type of advice would you give for the people who do wanna make progress in their career? They either want to change a job or they just wanna, make progress in a way where they're doing more than what they're doing right now. What should they do?
Well, first off, don't try to do it yourself. Definitely find a webinar, find something, an old video or something like that. If you know somebody that's in the field, certainly leverage them as much as you can. But like I said, the regulations are very technical. They're very complex, and if you try to jump in by yourself without a target in mind, your eyes are in your glass over. You're gonna lose sight of what you're actually doing, and you're gonna get stuck in classification 3A001 B34. The classifications can get crazy detailed and crazy ridiculous sometimes, and it's enough to discourage anybody if they don't have a target in mind. But if you want to get into the field, if you want to advance in the field, get the training.
And don't be afraid to reach out. For example, Tim, I know you were saying, I'm sure you're okay with, if anyone has any questions on their side, they're free to reach out to you on LinkedIn and stuff as well. So networking it's essential, especially in trade compliance. It seems like everyone already knows everyone. So you need to be one of those everyone. Don't be afraid to reach out to different people if you have any questions, or if you want some kind of guide. Find people on LinkedIn, find people on the social media, find people, and if you need some kind of help or some kind of guide, people are always willing to help. People that are already established, people in this industry who know what they're doing, they're always going to be here for you. And if you need some kind of help, don't be afraid to reach out and network with other people.
Yeah, especially because as you advance in the field or you get into the field, you're going to wind up talking to a bunch of trade compliance people anyway on the course of your day-to-day professional work, because you're going to get stuff from suppliers that needs to be classified. You need to know what the classification is. And then if you're a supplier to somebody else, you need to be able to pass that on to your customer. So trade compliance people are always talking to each other. And a lot of times it's tough to actually get the person on the other end of the line, if it's a contracts person or a customer service or something like that, to get you in touch with the trade compliance people, because they're kind of around it, but not always in it enough to know who to go to with to get the question answered the right way. So the more trade compliance people you can network with, especially in your specific field, if you're a supplier to somebody, figure out who the steps are going up. And if you supply to Boeing, find somebody at Boeing. If you supply to Ford, find somebody at Ford. They're out there, and they'll certainly be happy to talk to you if they know that you're a supplier or that you're part of the supply chain on either side of their products.
Yeah. And even if you want to reach out to someone who's not part of your supply chain, sometimes it's good to just reach out for information which someone else might know. Us people in trade compliance, we're not afraid to share the knowledge we have. It's not like we're going to give any confidential information, but it's good to share that kind of knowledge, that's general, but someone doesn't have it just because they're not used to, for example, that type of product. So there are people out there like that, and always reach out. And Tim, like I said, I'm sure if someone who's watching, if they want to reach out to you, you'll be okay with that as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure. Thank you so much. That's all I had for today for you, Tim. Thank you so much for joining me today on this series. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the time you spent talking to me and the audience, and I'm sure they will too. I have a lot of people who reach out to me about different types of stuff, and sometimes it's about export control and stuff like that, which I know about, but I don't use it as much as I would like to, so sometimes I can't really help them out, and by knowing that you're here, I can sometimes maybe point them to you if you're okay with that, so
Um,
it's good to like I said, it's good to have you here.
yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly willing to help out. I've got experience, obviously, in aerospace and defense, semiconductors and microelectronics, position navigation and timing, so like GPS, GNSS units, atomic clocks, things like that. And then some other stuff kind of that it all ties into that. So yeah, if anybody has any questions about export that they're unsure of, I certainly would be willing to help them out if I can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate it again. Thank you for joining us.
Yep. Thanks for having me on. It was a good time.
Yeah, same here. Take care.
Yep.
Bye.
Yep. Thank you.